All right, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about the 5 common mistakes that most contractors make. Now, there is a bunch of other ones, but these are the 5 most common. So, number 1, the tendency to take on every single job. So in the beginning, when your schedule's not filled and you just need some kind of work coming in, like at that point, you're going to take whatever you need. And I completely understand that. But as your schedule starts getting busy, what is going to happen is the tendency is to basically be afraid to turn down any work. And what'll happen is you're going to take a bunch of these jobs that you have no business doing. Okay, you might know how to do them, but you're probably not really efficient at it. You may not know the pricing for the materials. You may not know even where to get the stuff, especially with COVID. You know, there's a lot of issues getting materials, all that kind of thing. And what's going to end up happening is you're going to be spread really thin, and a typical job, for the ones that you're not really good at, in the course of a day, you might make $500. But if there's a specific job that you do day in and day out, you're super efficient with it, you get the materials for a great price and everything else, well, then you end up making maybe just say $1,000. Well, by taking the jobs that you really shouldn't be doing, what you're doing is you're basically costing yourself $500. And if you do this on a daily basis, well, you're going to cost yourself a ton of money. So the goal is to get down to as few, services that you possibly can. As a fence company, we could do fence installations for a ton of different types of materials. Then we could do fence staining. We could get into a ton of stuff. We can get decks, railings, everything else. And they are very profitable. The problem is that we're not very good at them. So we make a hell of a lot more in fences than we do in the other things. So that's what we stick with. We just do what we're good at. Think of it like Chick-fil-A versus McDonald's. Chick-fil-A, they only offer, chicken, and they offer for a higher price, and people will drive from wherever to get that. But McDonald's, they like to be everything to everyone and offer, the chicken, the beef, the fish, this, constantly rolling out new products and everything else. And they charge less, and people are pissed off all the time because what happens, because I used to work there, is, there's just too much going on. So it bogs down the grill area, everything else. So it takes forever. Nothing's as good as it's supposed to be because everyone's stressed out because they're doing everything. So that's why you don't do it. The next thing, which is super important that you should not be doing, is you're not charging enough. So when you first start your business, what happens, most people do their pricing is basically they figure out what the materials are, and then they figure out how much money they want to make. So if it costs, if it takes 2 days to install, well, I want to make $250 a day, so I'm going to add $500 for labor. So the total for 3,000 plus 5 is $3,500. The problem with that is as you start getting bigger and bigger is that you are going to start hiring employees to do the work for you. So now, even if it's, it takes a day or whatever, the materials are still $3,000. Well, you still have to pay someone else to do that, right? So not only are you paying them to do it, but you also have to make a profit on top of it. So it's easier to get into that now. Plus, the other way you could start figuring out if you're just not charging enough, because it doesn't matter if you're doing the work or if someone else does it for you, is to start calling around the other companies. As a fence company, it's easy. It's like, hey, I have about 150 feet worth of fence and a gate. How much is that going to cost, right? So then you can call 3 of your local competitors, and they're like, well, it's 5,000, 6,000, 7,500, right? And you're only charging like 4,000. Like, so you're, from the cheapest one, you're $1,000 less, but from the most expensive, you're like $3,500 less. Well, the problem is that you're leaving so much money on the table. So you can either, basically at your current rate, do 500 installs, or you could do like 150 for the same profit. I'm going to pick the 150. Okay. Number 3, over-promising. Okay, I'm still guilty of this. My wife yells at me, and the people in the office, they don't like when I get involved because people say, oh, can you do this? And I'm like, yeah, no problem, we'll do it, because I'm not doing it. Like, my employees are going to do it, right? And what happens is when you overpromise is that, chances are you're going to fall short somewhere, right? And, I'm recording this in the middle of December. If you promise that you could do something in the middle of December, but they push the project off until like April, when it's super busy, you might have been able to accommodate it in December, but now that it's April, it's probably way too busy at that point, but you still already promised it, so they're expecting it. And then when you can't live up to the expectations, you just end up pissing people off, okay? Number 4, this kind of coincides with number 3. You're not setting proper expectations, okay? So this we used to do all the time. Good example for this is basically the dirt that's left over after we install the fence. So obviously we're digging these big holes, right? We're adding in concrete, we're adding the fence posts and everything else. So there's going to be dirt left over. In the beginning, we didn't say anything about it because the common practice is basically take the extra dirt and put it along the fence line. So that's, for the industry, that's what everyone does. Well, the customer is not in your industry, so they have no idea. And they would get pissed off all the time. And then we'd have to go back and we'll clean up even more and everything else, even though in our mind it's satisfactory, right? So what do you do about this? Well, for us with the dirt pictures, we would literally take pictures of what the yard's going to look like after we rake up the dirt. And we actually take it from the worst property because there's certain towns that have really nice dirt that just rakes really easily. It's dark and it just blends right in. Then there's other areas where it's solid clay and it's super clumpy. It's this orange like texture and it just looks like crap. Well, we take pictures from the worst ones and we send that to the customers before we do the work just so that they know what's going to happen. And chances are we're sending them the worst pictures, so at least it'll be better than what ends up happening. So you end up turning, what could have been a bad situation, and they're actually thrilled because you're showing them a worse example and you're actually exceeding the expectation. So it's super important. The last one, this is super important. I've been guilty of this for far too many years, and then once I figured it out, it just makes life much easier. That is, you're not going in it with a plan. Specifically, most people say, I need to book more jobs. And I'm not going to go into all the mentality around this because there's a lot to do with it. But if you're basically telling yourself that you need to book more jobs, well, if you book one more job, well, it's more jobs, right? But in reality, you need to know how many jobs you need to book. How do you do this? It's pretty simple, right? So what you're going to do is figure out what you need to run your business for the year, and then you're going to figure out whatever your expenses are, your personal expenses are for the year, or how much you want to make from the business for each year, okay? So when you're doing this, you don't want to calculate if you're paying employees labor to actually install what you do. That doesn't count. You're doing the behind-the-scenes stuff like the insurance and the vehicles and the gas. If you have people within the office, like if you're paying someone, as a secretary, receptionist, something like that, that would be included as well. But the actual labor to install whatever you sell, you do not include that. That's separate. Okay. So you're going to come up with a number. I'm going to just make things easy. We're going to say everything all together is $520,000. You're going to divide that number by 52, and that's going to give you $10,000 that you need to hit per week. Now you're going to figure out about what your average job is that you, like how much you make from it, right? So if your average job is just say you make $2,500 in profit from that job, well, 10,000 divided by 2,500 is 4. So now instead of saying I need to book more jobs, I need to book 4 jobs. And this is super important because you're telling your brain this, and what's going to happen is you're going to make it happen. I know it sounds crazy, and it may not always happen, but the chances are a hell of a lot better. Think of it like playing darts. Like if you're playing darts with no target, like how do you know if you hit the target or not, right? So you just don't know. So that's where you need these targets in place. So that's crucial, absolutely crucial. So anyway, if you like these types of videos, what you can do is hit the like button, hit the subscribe so you can see more videos like this. If you're interested for the number 5, if you don't know how to put a plan in place, we do have a program. It's called the Profit Planner. It's an easy program. Basically, it acts like a spreadsheet, but it basically doesn't fall apart like a spreadsheet, if that makes sense. And it's $27 a month, and it will show you everything you need to know. It also has the future planner within there. And what that does is it shows you what's going to happen to your business if you make changes, okay? And the important thing is it's going to show you what's going to happen before you make those changes. So, what happens if you raise or lower your prices? What happens if you increase your advertising? What happens if you increase your expenses and you want to move into a new warehouse? What if you want to stop installing what you do and you want to hire someone else instead? Well, what it's going to do is show you how much more money you need to make, how many more jobs you need to book, and then it also tracks your hours. So it's going to figure out, like, if you do this, well, now instead of working 60 hours a week, now you're going to work 30 hours a week. And there is a few tweaks where a small tweak will literally cut your hours in half. So you can find that all out on localprohelper.com. There's also more information. Basically, I'll take these videos, I put them into there as blog posts, and then I pretty much expand upon the thought process because, everyone has like no attention span. So, this video is going to be like 10 minutes and that's way too long for most people. But if you want to get more information, you go in there, it'll show the video and then it'll break it down in like a Cliff's Notes type version. So you get everything you need to know in like, 2 to 3 minutes worth of reading. So anyway, have an awesome day. Talk to you soon and see you later. Bye.